What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, last week it was like 1,000+ managers help out. This time it's over 2,000 managers that filled in the Google form that I put on Twitter, talking about some of the kind of key questions and thoughts and burning topics from the community. So I'm going to go through them. Now, the plan was to do captaincy this morning, then do this video like now. It's going to go out around 7 o'clock. But then Cristiano Ronaldo decided to sign for Man United. So we've done a stream about that. I'm quite happy about it and excited, as you can probably tell. But also, some of the questions in the form were about him at Man City. So we're still going to discuss them, but obviously just keep in mind context that people's answers might be slightly different. I have improved the graphics and the graphs and stuff for this one as well. So hopefully you enjoy it. Give it a like if you do. Hit that subscribe button as well. And let's jump into it. Okay, so some of these are like burning questions for Game Week 3, and some of them are just a bit of fun, right? That's what I want this video to be. So one of the questions was around what would Cristiano Ronaldo's price be? Now, I don't think the answers would have been too much different whether he's at Man City or Man United. So we're going to talk through it. I expect by the time this video goes out, you might have already seen the price, but we'll see how long FPL takes to add him to the game. So 11.5 million or less was quite low. Then 13 million was next. Most people seem to think it'd be 12.5. So that would have put him at the same price as Salah when he was first, obviously, in the league this season. Obviously, I think he's gone up in price now to 12.6, and the same price as Harry Kane, although Kane has now gone down to 12.3. So somewhere in the middle of those two, which I think would be fair. I don't think he can be any cheaper. I think people making comparisons to Lukaku, 11.5, no matter how many goals Lukaku scored, this is just different, right? Even if you think that Lukaku going forward is a better player because he's younger, more in his prime, whatever it is, this is arguably, right, and I'm not going to get into a Ronaldo-Messi debate, but some people would say he's the best player that's ever lived. Certainly the best player in the world of the last 10 years, right? You could say Messi. Well, guess what? Messi's like an out-of-this-world player, so Ronaldo's still second best. That's still pretty damn good. You can't put him in the game at 11.5 million. Too many people will buy him. You have to price him so that people have to at least make somewhat of a decision, and I think that's why he has to be 12.5 million. I do think there's a case to make him 13 million because he's a Man United player and they tend to get brought a lot more because Man United just tend to have more fans in general that play FPL and stuff like that. So I can see a case for 13 million, but he is 36 now. I think that would be harsh to price him as that. So I'm going to say 12 million. I'm going to agree with everyone else. So next up was the question, would you wildcard to get Cristiano Ronaldo in? Now, I will say it's much easier to kind of say no than it will be when you realise he's maybe going to line up at Old Trafford for his second debut against Newcastle at home in Game Week 4. But also, I don't necessarily think that a wild card is needed. One of the key questions right now is penalties. Who's going to take them? My personal opinion is that Fernandes should keep them, but I don't think he will. I just don't see Cristiano Ronaldo coming back to Man United and not getting penalties. So straight away, that makes Bruno Fernandes a worse option. It doesn't make him an awful option, by the way, but it makes him a slightly worse one if he loses the penalties. So I don't know if a wild card would even be needed. A lot would come down to the price, but let's say he's 12.5 million. Some of you will have like an Antonio up front or maybe a Tony or someone like that. You could swap Tony and Fernandes to Ronaldo and like a 6 million midfielder. You could do it in a hit, right? Some of you will save 2 free transfers in the international break. So I don't think a wildcard is necessarily needed. And one of the reasons why I kind of agree with the people saying I'm not going to wildcard, and by the way, I'm not saying that I definitely won't, because I think once I see him in the game, I'll definitely be tempted to do it. But wildcard is not likely to get me much more money, right? Because the players I've got, I don't think I'd want to sell most of them. So I'm not going to suddenly be able to afford Ronaldo, Salah, and plus like Kane or someone like that. I think for most of this season, I'm probably, until later on when we maybe build up some squad value, I'm probably mostly just going to have 2 premiums rather than 3. So I'm in the middle count. I think open mind, I definitely consider a wildcard, but I'm certainly not locking into it. I think Bruno to Ronaldo for a hit or 2 free transfers will be very popular in Game Week 4. So a bit more of a simple one. A couple of people asked me about this. MAHREZ, would you hold or would you sell? And obviously this is open for anyone to answer that kind of checked out the Google form. So 51.6% said sell. I'm quite surprised that hold was so high. I thought most people would say sell. The only reasons I can think that it was such a high, not a high majority, but it was a majority, is because I think people think he's going to start against Arsenal. I'm just not so sure. And I think when I look at him on like FPL statistics, right, so if I just quickly bring that up now and search for him and just see if he's going to when he's going to fall in price. So at the moment he's minus 90.8%. I don't necessarily think he'll get enough transfers out tonight, so going into Saturday morning, to get a drop, but it could happen Saturday into Sunday. And if he doesn't perform or he is benched against Arsenal, I do think he'd drop quite quick, which could be frustrating obviously if you don't want to make an early transfer. So I think you can absolutely sell, because I think the price might drop. I think he might not even start. I think there's some people saying that maybe he missed Norwich, so he was going to be ready for Arsenal, but I'm just not sure about that. This is a very fit player. Pep said that about him before. So I'm with the majority here. I think you can absolutely sell him. Again, I don't really have a problem with keeping him if you think he might start and you want to use two free transfers over the international break. I think that's a good plan, but you can definitely sell. If you want to cut your losses, you don't want to worry about a price drop and you just want to get someone more reliable in, then go for it. Probably should have put Game Week 3 captain nearer to the start, but as I spoke about in my captaincy video earlier, it's very close in terms of which players are the best this week. And also it's kind of close because a lot of people don't have Kane. They haven't bought Son. And so they're struggling on what to do. So this was who was going to be your captain. Now, hopefully people read it like that rather than who the best captain is going to be. Because I think Kane would have been higher if that was the case. But for a lot of people, Antonio was right up there. Like, you can just see how much his bar is higher than the rest. He is going to be popular this week. Now, as always, this is a very small sample size from the people that follow me, which is obviously a very small sample in itself compared to the whole FPL game, but people pick this stuff up these days. There's so many articles, podcasts and videos. Everyone's going to know that Antonio is a really popular option, and I don't really disagree with it. I don't know if he should be that much higher than the rest, but I think people have just seen what he's done the last 2 games, and it is a bit of recency bias why people are going for that. Like, Fernandes has kind of been forgotten about. Again, I spoke about in the captaincy video, if he'd scored the hat-trick in Game Week 2, not 1, we'd be considering him a lot more. I still really like the Son pick. If you've got Son, you've got to go for him. There's a bit on that in a minute. But this just shows you how big of an option Antonio is going to be. So I think he's going to be over 100% effective ownership. Therefore, if you don't captain him, you essentially want him to blank. Now, I wouldn't go making decisions based on that, because that happens a lot, right? There's often times throughout the season when there's more than one player over 100%, but I think that's going to happen with Antonio. As you can see, a lot of the kind of more, not necessarily more popular, but the higher priced players, not really that popular this week because a lot of people don't own them. So Vardy, Lukaku and Kane, for example, are just quite low owned, but even Salah is not being captained that much. So Son, Fernandes and Antonio look the most popular, with Antonio quite winning by quite a distance at the moment. So I probably should have wrote the question out in full on the screen, but as always, I'll just explain what it was. So for this one, it is, which formation are you sticking to or are you looking to move towards? So obviously if you're on a back 4 right now, are you looking to move off that or stay with it? Same with 3-4-3, 3-5-2, etc. Unsurprisingly, back 5 was extremely low. I'd even be surprised if the 12, I think it was like 12 people went for that, are actually on a back 5. For most people, it's 3-5-2, 3-4-3, which are usually the most popular anyway. Again, it might have been interesting to have done this pre-season or in game week 1 and 2 as well, just to see where people are at. But I definitely see this trend in the community of people moving back to 3-4-3. So quite a few people started on 3-5-2, perhaps to have Son, perhaps like me to have MAHREZ and Gundogan, and there's quite a bit on 3-5-2. And I think we always knew how good the options up front were, like the Calvert-Lewins, Bamfords, etc. But we felt like we didn't have to start with them for a lot of reasons, right? Calvert-Lewin was flagged before game week 1, and it felt like there was a lot of value in midfield. But I do feel there's going to be a trend over the next few weeks where if you're not on 3-4-3, I think people are going to start moving towards it because, one, we've got Kane, Lukaku, and I think Ronaldo will be a forward. I don't know that for sure, but I'm pretty sure he played centre forward all last season according to Transfer Market. So you've got 3 premium forwards, so it'd be nice to be able to move them around as and when. You've also now got Calvert-Lewin scored 2 and 2, Ings has scored 2 and 2, Bamford's got some good fixtures coming up, Jimenez has got some good fixtures coming up, and around that price, like 7 to 8 million in midfield, there just aren't too many standout options. Right now, it seems like most people have either got Salah and Fernandes, and then they've got like 6 to 6.5 million pound players. Obviously, there's going to be people with like Jota and Greenwood, but even Greenwood's now a worry, I think, moving forwards, because Ronaldo's going to play up front, right? He's not going to be benched. Sancho on the right, Pogba on the left. There's no room for Greenwood to play week in, week out. So going forward, he now looks like a much worse option. So I do think there's going to be a move towards 3-4-3. It'd be interesting to see in a few weeks what the gap is, because I don't think there's any issue being on 3-5-2, but I do think, like I said, over the next few weeks they'll see a move towards that even higher. It's always the most popular, but I think right now it's kind of close. I think that gap will be widened over the next few game weeks. So I did one about squad value last week as well, but this was more about chasing squad value. So the very important, quite important, and not important at all was all about early transfers. So basically, how important is squad value? So is it very important you always make kind of early transfers? Is it quite important that you sometimes make early transfers? Or is it not important at all where you never make them? So quite popular, or the most popular, was quite important, right? And I kind of agree with this. And I think I've said this so many times in the past. I just don't think evergreen advice pretty much in FPL is a thing. I think, like, whatever you say, don't wildcard early, take a hit, don't take a hit, make transfers early, don't make transfers early. It's just not that black and white. Things change week to week. Like, for example, this week, I could quite easily have gone early on my transfers, but I didn't because I wanted a bit more information. I wasn't quite sure about which player I wanted to go for. I wanted to see who was going to drop and go up in price. I wanted to see what the international break situation was, and therefore I didn't do it. I still think squad value is important, but not for this week. I just felt like there was more important things. Next week, right, once we've got past all the international break, there's no players self-isolating. If there's a player going up and I've only got 0.1 million or nothing in the bank, basically, and it's a risk that I might be priced out of the move, then I'll do it. So I don't think you can say squad value chasing is extremely important or not important at all. It has to be somewhere in the middle, right? And you have to weigh up, basically, the pros and cons every single week. As we get later on in the season, there's less reason to do it, but it still doesn't mean you can basically you never do it, because again, if there's a time you've got nothing in the bank and there's a player you really want, the guy you've got is injured or something like that, you've just got to make that move and then hope for the best. Obviously right now it's a bit easier because there's no kind of European matches and stuff like that. That will change soon, so we might have to adapt to our approach. But yeah, I don't think you always need to make early transfers, and you definitely don't want to ignore it at all. Somewhere in the middle is best, like everything with FPL. Okay, so let's finish on this. The question was, if you have Son in your team, do you need to captain him? And 54% of people said yes. I agree. Like, if you've got Son in your team, like, what's he there for? I think he is going to start. I get it. Like, you might not know how Nuno's going to play. How is he going to play with Kane? But this is a guy that's been so consistent throughout the whole season. I said this in the capsy video. I just don't see why you wouldn't go for him. I really wouldn't be worried about what other people are doing this week, that they're all going for Antonio, or there might be some Fernandez's thrown in. If Son gets a couple of returns against Watford, you're laughing. It doesn't matter what everyone else does. If Son gets 2 returns, Antonio happens to get a hat-trick, yeah, okay, it's frustrating, but I think the chances of that are quite low. Like, will West Ham go and absolutely turn Crystal Palace over? I'm not sure they will. They could get 2 or 3 goals for sure, but then so can Spurs against Watford, right? And I've said this a lot of times this week. Kane is just not going to down tools. I just don't see him sulking. He's going to play just like he always has for Spurs, and they're going to do really well. And Watford is one of the easiest fixtures they're probably going to play all season at home. So if you've got Son, I absolutely agree here with the majority. You've got to captain him, I think, unless you've got Harry Kane. So there we go. That is it for this one. If you did enjoy it or found it useful, please do give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. Leave me some feedback on this video as well in the comment section. Obviously, I did it last week. I'm still not sure if we're going to do it every single week, but people do seem to enjoy it. One thing I was thinking that I could put some of these graphs and charts and stuff into other videos, so the captaincy one could just go in the captaincy video. Might be better than doing it as a separate video, but then again, maybe it's useful on Friday night before the Saturday deadline for anyone that's making last minute decisions. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't signed up to Patreon, there's a link in the description below if you want a few extra benefits and stuff over there. Big shout out to Rubens, who signed up since the last video. One of the cool things that's got, right, if you sign up to the middle tier, or the base, I think it's the second tier basically, is there's going to be a mini league every single month. Now it's too late to get into the August one, but from September onwards there'll be one every month. There's a bunch of prizes. I'm still putting the package together, but I wanted to show you this because there's a guy on Twitter called FPL Doodles. If you haven't followed him, make sure you do, and he does just that, doodles. So I've basically signed up a package with him where every single month whoever wins the Patreon mini league will be able to tell me what they want drawn, which player they want drawn, and Doodles is going to draw it and then send it by email, so it'll all be digital. And this is the picture I got him to do for me, Michail Antonio. Who else? So very talented. I'm very happy to be able to get his work into our Patreon mini league. If you want to sign up, like I said, there's a link in the description below. Anyone that signs up now will get entered obviously for the September mini league. I'll leave it there. Very excited about Cristiano Ronaldo. I'll be back for a deadline stream tomorrow at 9 AM to 11 AM. And then videos all through the international break, mostly around CR7. I'll catch you tomorrow.